Yes, 45 years, but it's only measuring the presence of the mission. The mission is the 45 years. It's not really me. It's the message, the mission continues. And I do pray that it will continue if I can no longer physically keep the leadership going, keep in charge, supporting, etc. So I'm depending on little Cassidy, I'm depending on Michaela, I'm depending on Azaria, Gianna, I'm depending on the mummies who are with the school, Sadia, Kimberly. That's who we're doing. The school is depending on you to keep it going. In fact, not just the school, our community, our castries, our city, Saint Lucia, and we are actually already touching. We are already there regionally, and also we are actually there internationally. Remember, we are part of the Royal Academy of Dance, the largest international organization for examining body in the world. And this is why I thank Mr. Platt for coming. He is the Royal Academy of Dance from the CEO office. He's the director there, one of the directors. And we really appreciate this, Mr. Platt, that you have found the time, you have actually made this tremendous effort, and you haven't been here for one day. Mr. Platt will be speaking for the third time today, and he will be leaving tomorrow. But we have been in Viewfort. We were at the GIS doing a press launch, and Mr. Platt has done tremendous demonstrations, given us a lot of information that he'd like to share with you today, including Westlyn, who is our master's in dance, who's a teacher in high school. She's head of the department there. She has flown down especially for this. She has given up her Thanksgiving and is spending it here. We also have Richard Ambrose as well, past student, and he's still there. I don't really like to call my students past. To me, they never pass. And we also have Sadia Snack Prosper. Sadia holds the highest classical ballet qualification in Saint Lucia at the moment. All right. So I am deeply, deeply grateful. I'm grateful to my parents. They supported me. I wasn't going to be teaching ballet. I was supposed to be actually a lawyer. And I wanted to go back to England, but no, I wasn't allowed. But I was disconnected. I did not know what to do, and it was suggested, they strongly suggested that I start teaching. So this is why, in a little place in 1979, in Tapillon School, in their library, I started the first class. What was tremendous is that a lady came into the class who was from Barbados, and she heard the advertisement that I was giving classical ballet classes. And then she came and visited with her little toddlers. She's only here on contract with her husband, and when she spoke to me, she said, "Do I know Mrs. Penny Ramsey?" Penny Ramsey was the organizer for Barbados and Jamaica, and I think Trinidad also at the time. And I said, "No, I don't know who that is." "Oh, but you're going to do exams." I said, "Well, I don't think I'll do exams. I don't think I'm good enough to, I've just started teaching." She said, "Oh, no, I think you better speak to Penny Ramsey." So I did get in contact with her, and I spent a day in Barbados with her, and Penny Ramsey convinced me that I should enter students immediately for examinations. She saw my background. She thought it would be a good idea to just step out there and just break the ice and go. And we did. So the first set of students, there were 9 of them, and we had to fly. I had to fly all 9, and my pianist, because in those days, we didn't have these fancy gadgets. We had a live pianist, which today I'd rather, but a live pianist, and I had to take her along as well. So a group of us flew over, did our exam, and what was actually quite strange and funny and extraordinary, the examiner who came to examine the Caribbean, when she saw my name on the document, she couldn't believe it was really the same one. She was actually my teacher, my last teacher. So she was very, very proud. When the 30th anniversary came along, she had time pass away before it, because I really wanted Miss Moss to come, but she had passed away. I did have Miss Elaine Archibald before that, but Miss Elaine Archibald had passed away many years ago. She's a much older lady. when I was training in London. So yes, it has been a trip. The concerns has been to face and defend that classical ballet is our culture, but at the time it was not. As far as many people express it, it's not. Right down to even as high as the government offices and so forth, they didn't think that ballet was going to be the thing to do. And when I asked to be in the schools, they actually said they didn't think it was a good idea. So I continue privately, and I have continuously, but we have been recognized along the way. 20 years later, we were given import duty status. We were given waivers. That was good because we were importing our uniforms, our ballet shoes, and also sound equipment, because the option of going into electronics using devices started. So I was allowed to use a CD player for examinations. But before it was to have to hunt, I had to fly in a pianist from Barbados to come and play for us and things like that. But that's eased up. But now we've got other concerns. I would like to expand again into other genres such as musical theatre. We'd like to look at teaching the elderly, the silver swans. These are the older generation. Also those who are physically challenged, impaired. We'd like to go into this. Right now, I'm a carer for my uncle, who unfortunately had a stroke. He's a surgeon, but he's now convalescing, and I'm trying to encourage him with the movement, and we have our little conflicts. But it's working, but one has to be consistent. So we are on a journey, but it's changing, and it will change again, because Mr. Platt will later show you what the Royal Academy Dance are doing more than ever, and their outreach has gone even further. And I think some of you here are perhaps not very clear on who the Royal Academy Dance is. I still don't think it's enough just to give you a website address. I think Mr. Platt's going to illuminate everything for you. And you will, as you heard, the benefits of doing dance and on a formal structure is tremendous. The children academically do excel a little more. I've had students where, when they've left the ballet class because they feel that their schoolwork has been so heavily committed, their grades have dropped. So the parents have sent them back quickly, and their grades go back up again. So it's definitely something that one needs to understand. But a qualified, trained teacher, and that too, Mr. Platt will talk to you about teacher training. And should I mention the ministry, Mr. Platt? All right, thank you, Mr. Platt. We had a very successful meeting today with Minister Sean Edward. He's very excited, and he wants to work with the Royal Academy of Dance. So this is a big step for us, but it did take 45 years to keep, not running on the spot, but just keep running wherever direction. But I must give thanks to the Holy Spirit, because I go according to his guidance, his provision, his protection.
So at this time, I would like to introduce Mr. Richard Constantine Ambrose. Richard is a dedicated artist whose journey in the arts, whose journey in the arts is marked by a passion for cultural expression and excellence. He gained early recognition for his work with the Anglican Archdiocese in Antigua and Barbuda. Today, trained at the Saint Lucia School of Ballet and Modern Dance under the tutelage of Mrs. Teresa Laurie Collymore, Richard furthered his studies in Guadeloupe and France, earning French diplomas in jazz and contemporary dance. His global career as a choreographer, teacher, and a performer includes notable performances at the festivals of Black Arts in Senegal, Carifesta events, and the 9th Francophonie Games. He also contributed to an article on dance roles in Saint Lucia, on dance's role in St. Lucia's development. His artistic achievements extend toward acting, with praised performances in international productions like Photo de Groupe au bord du fleuve. Am I right? This is Richard embodies St. Lucia's cultural pride and resilience, earning accolades such as Voice of St. Lucia. I now present you to Mr. Richard Ambrose.
I think I would want to share 3 points why we at the school, what I've gotten from it. When we speak about the syllabus and examinations and what's going on daily in class, you may not realize how important it is. But I just want to compare it to your academic cursus in whatever subject you're doing. I've always wanted to do dance and I've always liked structure. My first degree is in accounting, nobody believes it. When I started acting, my friends referred to me as the accountant who acts, and then I was the actor who dances. At my schools abroad, without touting my horn so much, I've always been singled out. Recently, I went to Guadeloupe, and the principal almost brought me to tears, but I understood why, because she said to my comrades who were with me, the jury stood up and bowed to him after his music exam. And all I could recall was being in inter-class and being in Mrs. Collimore's class, where she always goes a little bit further with the history, asks us to clap the notes, mark the notes with our feet. And as ridiculous as I thought that might have been coming into the school as an adult, it laid the foreground for my music exam, where a French composer came out of his seat and said, "I bow to you," in French. So understanding art, appreciating art, to me makes you a better rounded individual, a more sophisticated individual who appreciates the simple things even more. It's not only the complexities. I don't want to stay up here too long. I think it's about Mrs. Collimore and the school, and I think I am one of the testaments to its validity, its relevance in the St. Lucian context. I was happy to watch Mrs. Collimore's face when we went to Carifesta the first time. I had been invited through a colleague who had seen my work over the years, and Mrs. Collimore, we invited her to come along because I couldn't understand how she'd never been to Carifesta or represented St. Lucia. And she had a great time. And then we went again. And I think of her as a treasure because there is so much involved in the, if I use Kendall Hippolyte's words, the infrastructure for the arts, that we need individuals who are knowledgeable, who can guide us, and who can tell us these are areas to pay attention to. And finally, we've lost a lot in the schools. I grew up having quadrille and quadrille competition in school. I did dance at library summer workshops, and I was happy when I was able to take formal classes. I think it is not just something, but it has to be integral in our education system. And then we will take it beyond when we retire, because we need to move. We need to be physically active. We need to know, in Sadia's words yesterday, to take that breath. That's poignant in communication. And so, Mrs. Collimore, kudos to you. I hope the school goes on ad infinitum.
A short bio of her, because again, her bio is almost like Mrs. Collimore's, another 6 pages. Okay, so Weston Stevens is a dancer, dance educator, choreographer, and an anatomical conversationalist with over 42 years of experience in the art of dance. Currently residing in East Orange, New Jersey, she teaches dance at Newark Board of Education, specializes in ballet, jazz, modern hip-hop, tap, African, and Afro-contemporary styles. Her dance journey began at the age of 8 in Saint Lucia, where she trained in classical ballet before expanding her knowledge in various genres at Orange High School in New Jersey. Wesleyan continued her studies at Marie West Wadley School of Dance, the Dance Theater of Harlem, and Rutgers University, earning a Bachelor's of Arts in Dance and Anthropology. She later earned a Master's in Arts Politics from the New York University's Tisch School, refining her choreographic skills to create socially and politically engaged art. Her notable works such as Mirror on the Wall about the melanin factor, and Paint Me explore themes of race, communication, immigration, and heritage. In her choreography, Wesleyan draws inspiration from her classical training and her St. Lucian Guyanese heritage. She aspires to create impactful art and hopes to return to St. Lucia to inspire and educate future dancers, encouraging them to pursue dance as a path to global opportunities. I invite you, Ms. Wesleyan.
It is an honor for me to be here, standing in front of you. Um, I came here very early today, and I watched young dancers walk into the room, and it brought back so many fond memories for me. Right, I see all of these faces, and I see the magenta leotards and the black ballet skirts, and it brings back so many memories of my time here at the St. Lucia School of Ballet and Modern Dance. Uh, I thought I had something prepared to say tonight, but I think I'm gonna veer off a little bit on what I had planned. Dance, while it is movement, and as dancers, we hear often just dance. But what dance is and what dance does, it requires you to really use your head, right? And I tell my dancers this all the time because, yes, we are performing, but you are thinking about what steps come ahead, what your body is doing, what your facial expressions are doing, what you are trying to convey to your audience while holding yourself together, because a lot of the times it's nerve-wracking, right? And what the exams do is they prepare you to be sort of judged, right? Because when you go in front of an audience, believe it or not, you are being judged, right? How well you are performing, how graceful you are, how poised you are, right? So when we think of dance as in St. Lucian culture, we need not look at it as just an extracurricular activity, right? Because for a long time, even for me, when I started pursuing dance at the age of 8, it was just something that I did because I really enjoyed it, right? When I went on to high school, I did it because I really enjoyed it. When I went to university, when I attended Rutgers University, my every intention was to go into science. I had started with a science degree, math and science, and then for my associates, and then when I went into Rutgers to pursue my 4-year degree, I said, I'm going to be a sports medical doctor. 1 month in, all my plans had changed. I started pursuing dance and anthropology. It was sort of a calling, right? I can't even say when the light bulb switched for me to say that I'm actually a dance educator. Because even when I graduated from my master's at NYU, I was not trying to be a dance educator. And every job that I applied to, I kept getting rejected. And then one day I was searching online, and I saw this job opportunity at Newark Board of Education. I was like, I have my dance degree. I have my certificate to teach dance. Let me just apply. And then I went into the interview, and my boss walked in and he said, "You're the one we've been waiting for." Because he had been interviewing person after person after person, and they were not it. And I walked into the door and he said, "You're the one that we've been waiting for." And I say this to say that some of you may think that dance may not lead you anywhere, right? But I know that the call on my life is so that I can influence younger people, right? To be a beacon, to be a light. We don't know what God has called us for, but what the Bible does say is that our gifts will make room for us. Our gifts will make room for us. Some of you may not see a future in dance. Who knows? The Lord may point you into dance, and who knows? You may be taking up the mantle after Mrs. Collymore so that you can be a beacon to younger dancers, so that her vision and her mission can continue on, her legacy can continue on. Who knows? I may be back in Saint Lucia. We don't know, but God knows. So while I'm up here, I'm going to say to you, take your studies seriously. You never know what doors dance may open for you. Because for me, dance has allowed me to enter a lot of spaces that I never thought that I would be in. I've danced on the Apollo Theater, Stage Theater. I've danced at the NJ PAC, New Jersey Performing Arts Center. I've danced with companies. I've had training from Arthur Mitchell, the late Arthur Mitchell. A lot of my peers went on to dance on big world stages. But I believe my calling is with the children. And as of right now, that's what I'm doing. But, I say this to say, lastly, stay focused. And don't think that dance can't take you anywhere and that it's not important. Thank you.
I would like to introduce you to Mrs. Sadia Snack Prosper. Sadia is a lawyer with several years of experience in international law. She has been in legal practice in Saint Lucia for 17 years. Don't worry about the 17 years. Sadia is just as... Okay, Sadia is a partner at Flosac, Duboulay, and Thomas, and regularly advises on banking, commercial, insolvency, and transactional matters. She represents clients in contentious legal work in both the High Court and the Court of Appeal. Sadia, who has a master's in environmental law, maintains an interest in environmental matters and volunteers her time to work on environment agency. Sadia pursued dance studies for many years at the Saint Lucia School of Ballet and Modern Dance. She is the first Saint Lucian to acquire Advanced 1 level certification and covered Advanced 2 in classical ballet from the Royal Academy of Dance. So you understand my... She has also trained in modern dance. Sadia is the mother of 2 children. Her daughter, Michaela, is currently a grade 1 student at the school and also enjoys dancing. I invite you now to hear from Sadia.
I am really pleased once again to have an opportunity to have a little conversation with you, I hope. I would prefer to adopt a more anecdotal approach to speaking to you this evening. I indicated yesterday when I spoke that I started ballet when I was about 9 years old, and like Michelle, I have had, I've danced in fits and starts. But I had a love. I knew that ballet was not going to be my vocation, but it was certainly a hobby that I was so very passionate about. And I after having danced with the school for 6 years, at 17, I left to pursue my legal studies in the UK. And despite going to pursue law, I still had the hankering that I wanted to continue to dance. And so I set about trying to find an appropriate place and space for dancing. When and I should say, you know, as a Roman Catholic, I walked into a church in England and I felt right at home. This is the same readings that my family is going to be hearing from Saint Lucia. So I had a feeling and a tie that when I'm in church in the UK, it's like being at church back home. And so I was trying to find my ballet church, the RAD. And the challenge was that my legal studies, the time of my classes, clashed with every single, ballet studio that I found. And as God would have it, about 2 years later, I'm about 19 at that point in time, I finally am living literally within 2 minutes walk of a school that is doing RAD. And so I set about. And of course, they were a little reluctant, a Saint Lucian, who's 19 years old, walking into a class to do ballet. And I was happy to be an ambassador for Saint Lucia in that space, and to also recognize that I found my church, the RAD, where everything that I had learned in Saint Lucia was able to translate, if you like, in this space. And the standard was there, and after the first class, the students and the teacher suddenly wanted to know, where did you say you were from? I said, well, I'm from RAD St. Lucia. Okay, but there was another experience I took from that. So after having danced with that school for a year, again, my schedule changed and I couldn't continue dancing. And I approached them and I said, look, I'm having this challenge. Could you work something out for me where I can continue dancing? Most of the students of that school were going to pursue dance in some form or fashion professionally. And they basically said, we don't have any time for you. And that was a shock to my sensibilities, because Mrs. Colmo meets you where you are. Mrs. Colmo has given to me as much as she gave to Wesleyan or to Richard, who were interested in dance as a professional pursuit. And so we have to appreciate that what we have in St. Lucia, a lot of these students in that school traveled for miles to get there. And we have a treasure in the school and in Mrs. Colmo specifically. And then I want to sort of pivot a little bit and speak about myself as a parent now, parenting a little one in dance. And I did get her permission to be a little bit scathing if I needed to be. Nowadays, our children are tied to their devices, and we need to get them moving. And I smile often because I say, look, Michaela, you're like molasses uphill in winter, because you just don't move enough. And that is what dance is about. It's about getting our children active again. But it's beyond that. As Wesleyan said, it's important because it's contributing to that elasticity of the mind. I can tell you that when you stand in a studio and you have to learn your movements and you have to be flexible and adaptable, if you get on stage and something goes wrong, what are you going to do? All of these things are activating all those little, your brain in a way that no other sport, no other activity can compare. And you're doing it all whilst being expressive, whilst communicating to an audience. So let's move. And parents, that means you too. And the second, if you like, theme I would like to take forward is let's connect. Nowadays, when we talk about connecting, we're speaking about connecting on LinkedIn, connecting on Facebook, connecting via and through a device. But more than ever, we are less connected. My experience in dance has taught me how to connect at so many different levels. With myself, first of all. When I was an adult dancer, I came to the studio, Mrs. Colmo was sitting there, and heavy day's work, and we engage in a conversation as we always do, and we're chatting and laughing, and then I get to the bar, And I settle in and I start doing, a couple of pliés, so and so. And then Mrs. Colmo said to me, at one moment, I don't know what I was doing, she said, Sadia's here. And that spoke to me because I had spoken to Mrs. Colmo, we'd had a conversation, but there was one moment in time where she saw my spirit connect in what I was doing, and it translated. And that is immeasurable. That is what dance does for us. Every day, we go through life, we think we're connecting, but there it was. Sadia connected. In my work in partnering with usually Richard Ambrose, I learned a deep connection that I had not encountered with the many friends I'd had, because you build so quickly a trust in order for you to execute, in order for you to anticipate, in order for you to respond to a partner when you're dancing at that level in classical ballet, you must be connected. And so I say we connected at a deep soul level, and I've had that experience with other persons I've partnered with. And I say that, again, to indicate the different levels of connection. And then 2 weeks ago, I was astounded in appreciating, well, before I say that, and I also want to speak to the fact that we also must connect as a chorus. These days, there's a certain disharmony. We do not know how to move as a people anymore. Is that the truth? And when it is, as a chorus, you are trained to be in step. One of the most beautiful things I ever saw, and perhaps it was, again, my moment in time, I was watching this ballet called La Bayadère, and the music builds to a crescendo, and there's this greater simplicity of movements. The dancers do nothing more than step out, each one after the other, on a diagonal, into an arabesque and then a penché, which is when you tilt forward. And it was the most arresting thing and the most beautiful, demonstrative thing. And so I say this to indicate we must learn how to move again as a people. And that's what we're teaching our students in the dance studio. And I think finally, the arresting thing that happened to me 2 weeks ago, I was on a flight to the US for work. And as I stepped onto the plane and I'm walking along as you do, trying to not look so awkward as you look at all these people who settled in. And as I shuffled past this gentleman, an older gentleman, he says, "I know you." I thought, well, I don't know you. And then he said, no, I know you. And so I said, well, I can't quite put my finger on it. He says, you that dancer from Esperance, Hope of a Nation, 15 years ago. And he said, I know you. And he touched his heart. And so it's the connection with an audience. So it's impactful, it's important. What we are doing for our girls, our students, and hopefully some boys, is to impact their lives and the lives of others in a meaningful and a significant way. So we have a responsibility, all of us who are here, and all of us who have been here, and all of us who will be here, that we must keep this alive. We must advocate for this school that is doing so very much. And Mrs. Colmo, you know that you have my commitment. Maybe not as the next teacher, but in every way that I can, I will continue to support the school. And so I thank you all for listening.
Alistair Platt has a wide experience in commercial roles spanning education, hospitality, and tourism, and also the IT sectors. Most recently, I joined 6 years in the Director of Business Development seat at the RSL Awards, a music and performing arts specialist awarding body. With extensive international exposure in educational sales and management, Alistair aims to enhance the Royal Academy of Dance, that's RAD, global thinking, and relevance to the myriad of educational contents across the world. Alistair's role at the RAD is to help develop and drive innovation, expansion, and great customer care. He sees the arts as having such an important role to play in society, and that a vibrant and quality educational provision in arts is the key to the sector's longevity. I now invite Mr. Platt to give us our insightful expectations.
What I'm going to talk about is not anywhere near as personal, but I'm going to try and give you a context of how this school fits in to a truly global network of dance educators, and kind of where we come from and what we're trying to achieve. I would like to start with a little short video, please, which for me is an expression of where we are in our heart and soul as an organization. But just before I show it, I want to tell you that we are an organization of members. So there are 8,500 Teresas in the world, right? And they're all working with the RAD systems and structures. We don't really run a school ourselves. We do actually have one in our headquarters in London, but we don't run schools. What we're here for is helping that community of teachers all work together and support them.
Why do I dance? I dance because I want to be like them. I want to dance, to perform.
I want to shine in the spotlight. I want to be a dancer.
I love teaching dance. It's my calling. Some people don't know there's a dancer inside each of us.
Every week I get to see progress. Some people have never danced, and then before you know it, they're leaping across the floor.
We're teaching a new generation. That's why I do it.
We've always taught dance. We're just teaching more of it.
Some of us want to pass exams.
To stay on our feet.
To make new friends.
I dance to be part of a community.
To feel more confident.
Dancing makes me feel brave.
It makes me feel strong. It makes me feel free, like I'm flying. Everybody can dance.
It fits into our lives in so many ways.
It's art, it's fitness, it's a community.
Everyone needs something in their life that makes them feel happy. And who doesn't want to feel that?
Everybody can dance.